Hello lovely people! To celebrate with you, I'm going to be sharing 5 of my favourite children's books that include deafness. All the books mentioned in this video will be linked in the description down below. Very excitingly, this is actually going to be part of a new series on my channel, which will all be about inclusive books for children. So I have a huge passion for children's books. I've always been a really big book lover myself, partly because I have always been a very big book lover. I was the child who went to the library every day during summer and, got 8 books out and trudged them home, read them all, went back the next day, had to get my 8 more. But as a child who struggled with hearing loss, books also very much helped me. Whilst the majority of my hearing loss happened in my teenage years, I did struggle a lot with hearing loss as a small child, and books were one of the ways that really helped me learn how to communicate with the world around me. Not only because books are an incredible resource. I was an early reader, I learned to read quite at a young age, and suddenly I had access to be able to understand people and understand communication in a way that I struggled with so much when everything was verbal. But also books led to me being able to better grasp lip reading, because my mother would read to me and I could watch her face, watch her lips, and learn from her. And as other people, as I grew up at school, at nursery, in the library, would be reading out loud from books that I knew, and I knew the words that were coming, reading helped me to grasp how their mouths worked and made sounds, and that in turn also helped me learn how to pronounce things. Plus, who doesn't love diving into incredible worlds of invention? So I knew that when we were going to have a baby, building his little library was a top priority for me. I wanted to build a real love of books and that joy within Rupert, and boy have I done that. Sometimes it's hard to tear him away from the books. We have places to be, thank goodness the books travel. That's all I can say on that. But there are only so many books you can take on a plane. There are only so many. You do need to take clothes in your suitcase too. He doesn't believe it, but you do. But books were also a fabulous way to have quality time and a great way to share sign language. It was also really important to me that the library of children's books that I was building for him was diverse. Diverse in terms of authors, diverse in terms of themes, diverse in terms of characters that were represented. And also we have non-fiction, don't worry. Studies show that our children will have an easier time adapting to any kind of difference if from an early age they are made aware of the wide variety of the world that is outside of their little daily lives. Whilst they're likely not in the course of their day-to-day life as a toddler going to meet every type of religious person possible, see every type of different country represented, every disability walking down the street, they do have access to books and are able to see other types of lives that are also being lived in the world that look different to theirs. Today we're going to be talking about 5 books for the 0 to 3+ age range. I've worked with Inclusive Books for Children and putting together this list, and you can click the link in the description down below to see some books for older children as well, which have also made it onto my list. I should also say that age is just a number, and of course a guidance. You know your child, you know what they're into, you know what they like. Some children are more interested in books aimed at older readers because that's where they're at cognitively, even if they can't yet quite read it themselves and you're having to help them read through it. But maybe the themes that they're talking about are just more applicable to what's going on in their mind. And some children are just more comfortable sitting with books that are supposed to be aimed at younger readers. They just want to get really comfortable with the content of those books first. And some kids just eat books. But everyone always says my kid just eats books. So now he is in bed and it's time for me to actually get to sit down and watch something fun, which is why I'm very pleased to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark, who keep all of my snuggling in bed watching Netflix safe and secure. In case you haven't heard, Surfshark is an amazing app and browser extension, which means you can change your virtual location to basically anywhere in the world and therefore access the content libraries that are available in that location. I mean, I'm not saying that you should watch Barbie on a streaming platform in a different country, because that country happens to have it at a cheaper rate than your country. I'm just saying you could. Well, not only do you get access to content that you're normally blocked from, but also to sites and services. I personally like to book my travel from down the road from where I'll be staying. Oh. And don't you hate how when you go to check on the price for something like a flight, and then you go to check on it again 5 minutes later, and suddenly magically it's now more expensive? Yeah, that's because they tracked you. So use your VPN instead, and oh no, this is definitely the first time you've looked at this flight. It is absolutely not the 20th. Also, you should probably make a decision by now. But one of my absolute favourite things about Surfshark is that thanks to their many layers of encryption, I can use it across an unlimited number of devices with just my one account, meaning the whole family is safe. Get an exclusive Surfshark deal today. Click the link in the description and use code JESSICA for 3 months for free. Alright. Book number 1, Animal ABC. This book is part of the Rhyme and Sign series, which is very sweet. And they have a number of books which have little rhyming couplets, little poems as they go along, and each of the pages will have a number of signs on them. This particular one, as you can guess, is the ABC. Also the signs for animals. Yeah, that's a dragon. I know. We get to that page and Rupert goes, that one's pretend. I'm like, yeah, roll with it. But still, best sign, can we just say. This book shows you the detailed BSL alphabet, sign for each of the letters, for both left-handed and right-handed signers, which is a really nice touch to also have inclusion for left-handed signers, because often very much left out. That was a bad joke. No, that was an accidental joke. Still a bad one. It also includes the sign for the actual animal, which is really lovely because some of them are very fun and children love to learn them. You know, we have foxes in our garden, and so Rupert really enjoys the sign for fox. Is that an issue that we have dogs as well? Yes, yes it is. The book has lovely illustrations and it's very easy to use as an adult and really grows with your child. So I personally would use this right the way from tiny baby up to whenever your child gets kind of bored of it, because you can from the very start make it into something rhyming and lovely and beautiful, and have your child be learning more of the kind of basics of or you can go through it and you're just doing the animal signs, or you're fully flowing through what's essentially a poem yourself. And even if you don't know how to sign a flowing poem, there's lots of help within the book to do so, and it allows you as a parent to build up your skills. So if you're a hearing parent of a deaf child, this is also a book that I think could be really helpful. And let's be honest, there are so many animals, ABC things out there already for hearing children that yes, of course you can use with your deaf child, but it's so much harder for you if you as a parent are learning sign to then be like, oh god, right, I've got to remember the sign. What is the sign for that? Right, okay, I'm trying to teach you the sign, hun, but I'm trying to remember it myself. Whereas this book really adds it to you, and at the end has handy supplementary signs, such as for big, dark, what else does it have? Orange. Alright, not all of these are the colour signs I use, but it does leave a handy note that colour signs can vary regionally, which is very nice. The book gives so much information for helping your little one to understand and to learn and really expand their language abilities cognitively. I think it's really brilliant for that little extra bit of help, and it does make clear the difference between BSL and SSE, which I think is a really nice touch as well. Special mention to this, which is also part of the series, at the bottom of my garden, just in case you want to know the signs for all the bugs. Number 2, sign about going out. Very cute. Also part of a series. The Sign About series, which if you search for anything to do with sign language and children, you will find. This book is generally marketed as being 1 year plus, but I found it to be actually a little difficult to use with Rupert when he was under the age of, under the age of about 2, because he really wanted more of a story, and it's only very recently, at about the age of 2, that he has started to enjoy this type of format where it's very much a laid out, this sign is this sign is this. The thing he is really loving about these style of books at the moment is playing the where game, or the what. So the where is, and then do the sign, and then he points to it. This whole series is really brilliant when it comes to representation of not only different races and ethnicities, but also I find a variety of disabilities other than just deafness as well, which is quite nice. You can also generally see children who have hearing aids and cochlear implants and other styles of hearing devices. Plus, it's just really nice for children to see other children signing. The hands that you will see in an example of this is what sign looks like will be an adult's hands. So it's lovely that they have a child's hands showing them. It does have a little bit of info in the back, particularly with different hand shapes, but I wouldn't say it goes into a great deal of depth about deafness and deaf culture or anything like that. So if this is your only book, I would take it more. Number 3, can bears ski? Excellent question. Rupert spent quite a lot of time in the 24 hours after first reading this going, can bears ski? The book is about a small bear who is struggling with hearing loss and gets his first ever hearing aids after the adults in his life realise that that is something he's dealing with. It's a really good portrayal of what the world is like when you're a hard of hearing or deaf small child, and how the adults around you don't necessarily seem to grasp that that may be something that you're struggling with. For example, there's one page in the book where the father bear stops and looks at the little bear and says, "Your friend was saying hello. Why did you ignore him?" And the little bear's like, "I didn't," because he just has no idea that the friend went past. Then Dad Bear asks again, "Can bears ski?" Is that really what he's asking me? And this poor little bear, over and over again, keeps being asked the question, can bears ski? And it's not until he then gets his hearing aids he understands that the question is not, can bears ski? It's, can you hear me? Oh, no. It's lovely to have it be a first-person narrative from a small child, be it a bear, who is struggling with these issues. I think quite often we see that it might be a third person or second person retelling, but it's really lovely that it's in the bear's own voice. It's also really nice, I think, to have a book that deals with the transitional time of getting hearing aids. So often deaf children in media are very fixed. Like, it's a very fixed point of, this is the deaf one and they have hearing aids. If we see a deaf child book, they tend to already have hearing aids. They've already been through all of this, the audiology appointments, all of that. They know what's going on, and that's already very settled, and it gives the impression that it's just at birth that everyone in your very first hearing test, like, what is it, the hospital, day 12? I didn't have a baby that long ago. Ooh, He's only like 2 years, 2 months. Anyway, it was only 2 years ago. Day 12, something like that. They do the hearing test and everyone passes or fails and that's it. But that often isn't the case. And I have a number of friends whose deafness or hearing loss was not recognised or discovered until they were a toddler, a late toddler, until they started school. You can kind of think, well, how did that happen? How do you get to the age of 5 and people don't recognise and people don't realise that you're deaf? And that's because deafness is a spectrum, and it's nice to see a book that really embraces that. There are other extenuating factors like access to medical care and financial issues, which we of course should not disregard. Thank you, capitalism. Book 4, The Girl Who Loves Bugs. I think this book is very cute. Originally, going in, I thought this book was just going to be like a kind of empowering book about a little girl who wears hearing aids, and the main takeaway point from it was the kind of swap gender thing. I know, like bugs have a gender, but classically, if we see a child character who's very interested in bugs, it's going to be a boy, isn't it? Come on. We've seen the tropes. And it was like, oh, that's nice, it's a girl who likes bugs. Oh, lovely, and she's got hearing aids. And then we started reading, and I was like, oh, is that 2 mums? She's got 2 mums. Oh, she does appear to have 2 mums. And and actually, it appears, she's got a mixed heritage. Oh, intriguing. How interesting. It's an incredible amount of representation in this book. She's got a mummy and a mama, and one of them is blonde and has short hair and doesn't wear dresses, only wears trousers. I know. Point is, Brenda, they know. It's all right. Children know that it's 2 mums without them both having to wear dresses. And it's lovely. Here's her lovely family. And the story is very much all about her bugs. Which may be to your taste, because there is a certain thing with books that we think of as being diverse or representative or inclusive, and that is that they go to one of 2 ways. Either the representation and the inclusion is just there, as it is in this book, and it's never mentioned or talked about, or it is very much like, this is what's happening here. We're talking about a child who has 2 mums. And it doesn't have to be the key part of the story. I'm thinking about, like, what's it called? Billy and the Pirate Mums? Billy's Pirate Mums? Yes. The story is about Billy, like, accepting that his mums dress like pirates all the time. And I'm really into pirates. Obviously it's about him accepting that they're actually 2 mums, but it's fine. It's about him accepting that they're pirates. And it starts at the very start with, like, Billy has 2 mums. They dress like pirates. And it's all out there, it's very open. Whereas this book, I think there is quite a lot of it that if you are a small child and you're just looking at the pictures and the adult is only reading the words as printed in the book, so much of the context and the subtext does get lost. So personally, when I'm reading it, I do tend to say some of the quiet parts out loud, because I think that my son's a 2-year-old. I think it's worth explaining to children the things that we as adults can very easily understand, the sort of shorthand of what's going on. There's no mention in this book of the fact that Evie wears hearing aids, which you may love, and it's lovely to have as part of a collection if there are also books that very openly say, like, here we're talking about deafness and we're talking about hearing aids today, because we don't need to be talking about it every single day. And that's why I included it, because I think you should have those kinds of things in your collection where it's just a story about something else happening and she happens to have that. But I do think that maybe even the first time or the first couple of times you read it, it is worth pointing things out so that when your child encounters the book again, they are better able to get the richness and the depth of the story. But I wanted him to just experience this book as it was. So the first 2 times that I read it to him, I didn't mention anything about her wearing hearing aids because it's not mentioned in the text. And it was only on the 3rd time that he noticed them and then asked me if anyone else in her family was deaf. And I had to spend a long time going through and trying to look at all the pictures and being like, is that a hearing aid? No, that's an earring. And it, I don't know if it would have added to the story, but it might have helped to give something that was a bit like, she's the only person in her family who has a hearing aid. Maybe I'm wrong. And this is just a book about bugs. And isn't that fun? Number 5, I saved the most interesting one till last. The Visible Sounds. This is definitely one that I think is also for an older, it's for 3+, but with a qualifier that I think it really depends on your child and the type of pictures they are interested in. I think their attention has to be maintained. The main reason I say that is the book has a really beautiful art form, and it's actually based on a real life story of a woman called Toddler who lost her hearing at the age of 2 and then went on to actually become a dancer after realizing that vibrations and the world around her, colours, the clouds in the air, things to her were like sounds, as if to her was as if it was a sound. But the book moves from when she loses her hearing. It's a very kind of dark start to the book, to at the end being colourful. And it's like, oh wow. I think it's a really interesting way of explaining to a small child how different people experience senses. The old engine made the bus shake as if there was a mischievous tiger hidden inside. In the book she's called Mealy. Mealy couldn't help touching it with her hand. As she did, she felt soft trembling, as if the small tiger was tickling her palms. Mealy realised that this was a sound, and she began to laugh. And this is the first time that she realises that, these feelings are sounds. And then she experiences them as little animals, and as she grows older they become colours. Here she's learning about lip reading and lip shapes, and as people's mouths move and change, they're like blooming flowers. Language is a river, flowing and flooding into Mealy's body. It also includes different sign languages that she learns: British Sign Language, American Sign Language, and Chinese Sign Language. And there's some extra information at the back about that. It's really lovely, it's really beautiful, and it's great to experience as an adult, and it's nice to share with a child. Definitely the first few times I tried to read this with Rupert, who is a big fan of reading new books, and it's like, oh, excellent, a new book, let's dive on in. What could it be? He was a bit like, oh, not really enjoying these first few pages. This isn't great, because not many children's stories do start with like, this is sad. This is not good. Oh, but it gets better. And I think they're not quite used to that rhythm. After forcing him to sit through it once, he was then like, oh, okay, I'm more willing. He particularly enjoyed asking me how I experience sounds and vibrations after reading through the book, and then quizzed me on what kind of animal he was making as he stamped on the floor. around me. And I was like, that's not how that works for me, but I will invent animals for you, sure. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you've really enjoyed it and that you go on to enjoy some of these books. Let me know what other episodes in this series you would like to see. Whether that be some of my favourite books for babies that include same-sex parents, books for toddlers with physical disability representation, books for young children with strong female characters for International Women's Day, some of the books that I bought my son for Chinese New Year that he insists should always be out. Every day is the start of the Lunar New Year. I mean, every day is a day in the lunar calendar, so. But yes, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed reading these wonderful books to Rupert. Don't forget, all the books I mentioned are linked in the description down below. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them, and which books you would like to see included on the next list talking about books including deafness. Thank you again to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Remember to click the link in the description and use code Jessica for 3 months for free. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!